thank you everybody for joining us today. I am Jill McKenna. I'm the Campaign Marketing Manager here at Ruby, and I'm truly delighted to be talking to my friend and colleague, David Lambert, today. David works with us here at Ruby. And David, can you speak a little bit about your position with us?
Sure. So I take care of pretty much all the paid media at Ruby, where I'm running a lot of the digital marketing, spend and advertising. So I'm really trying to optimize, look for new audiences, see how we can better communicate with our customer base. And mostly it's inbound or growth. So we're looking for new customers and new audiences and how we connect with them in different industries through different channels. So I'm always evaluating different avenues, whether it's radio, whether it's graphical ads or video through YouTube, and trying to create a consolidated strategy to reach the people who would benefit most from what we do. A lot of my background came from also consulting. I was a consultant for many years before joining Ruby. I still do that on the side. So I really try to be plugged into small businesses and what their challenges are. And it's generally, there's a big desire for being better at digital marketing, just because it's kind of a black box for many people as they're running their business. They might not have that expertise. So how their website performs and how to get people to their website is such a big conversation that I always get when I talk to people who run their own business. So that's kind of where I found my career and my passion. And I do a lot of that at Ruby.
I'm curious what your thoughts are about kind of the more foundational aspects of advertising that aren't quite as interesting to us anymore, but print, mailers, and radio. How are those things faring? Are they having a resurgence? How do you feel about them at this time?
I think it's really exciting in the realm of advertising, because some of these more traditional forms of marketing and advertising had kind of fallen to the wayside. But it's been so long that we've kind of improved our digital ecosystems that they're really being brought in new and interesting ways. Radio is a good example as we kind of move to streaming audio, where we're having a lot of the traditional ways that we measure that, but the delivery is changed completely, where we're listening to streaming audio in our cars, on our phones, on our computers, and you can target people based on that. So a lot of these older traditional mediums are actually getting invigorated by new capabilities that are super exciting. I was just talking to a radio provider this week, and some of the new capabilities are super interesting, where you can fill in really dynamically into different segments, different podcasts, different radio programs or channels, where a lot of those contracts had to be negotiated one-to-one. If I wanted to be on this podcast, I'd have to reach out to the creator. They would give me this long contract. I would have to buy 3 months of ads on their program. So the upfront investment was pretty high. But with some of these new networks people are doing, you're able to produce an ad, and then it's dynamically inserted into many, many podcasts. And you're just doing a contract with iHeartRadio or Pandora or some of these bigger audio providers. And it's super cool. And the same thing's happening with TV. They're starting to bridge like YouTube advertising and traditional or advanced TV. So you create a TV ad or essentially a video ad, and they're able to serve it on Hulu and YouTube and on sites. And just the way we're able to deliver the content is becoming much, much more refined. Paid or direct mail is an interesting one. I think it is ripe for innovations there, because it is really, it's dropped off a lot because it used to be very competitive. But as everyone's at home, I'm excited to see the mail. Like, I don't look at every single ad, but I get far less than we used to, just because people are investing in more digital services. But that we're looking at that stuff now. So I think if you create some interesting campaign around that, I think it could be really beneficial, especially if you're in home services or local. I think that it's really strong if you do a nice mailer, and then you have a web page that they go to or a phone number. I think you can really create some creative campaigns there where people are wanting to look at that stuff.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about these things before. We have some of my favorite conversations because we're both always progressing towards the future and looking at the more visionary things. And I agree with print and things coming to the house. Everybody's at home, and
Yeah.
we are way overdue for reinventing what that looks like with, things like unboxing experiences are
Yeah.
amazing. Who doesn't like a great unboxing experience? And with shipping being pretty universal at
Yeah.
this point, and then also things like, I'm thinking about that product Greetable. You've probably seen it. It's a really cute box. It's
Uh-huh.
got printed inside the message you want to give somebody. It's got a little gift. It's adorable. And who wouldn't want to receive something like that? Like, I'm waiting for companies to really start hitting on that.
I do too. And the manufacturing of printing has gotten so efficient. So it is not nearly as costly to spin up a mailing list and to have thousands of mailers printed. Of course, it's an investment, but it is much, much cheaper than it used to be. And you can do a lot more creative stuff, especially if you're getting more refined in what you're able to do from a marketing perspective and tie in, a good web ad or a good web video after they've engaged with some mailers. And I really think that that's where bigger companies and the more refined marketing organizations, it's how do you kind of put this all together and just create, interesting experiences and just that share of voice and that brand recognition. For smaller businesses, though, even just having a coupon sent directly to someone's door, I think that can boast well, because you don't have to be such a big organization to do that kind of marketing anymore.
Yeah, and also I don't think that you have to crush so much information into a mailer, because people
Yeah.
can go online and get the same information, where before we used to get these kind of unattractive paper mailers that were just loaded with words and content and you didn't know where to start reading. And now you really don't need much to make an impact but a brand name and a beautiful photo and
Yeah.
where to go to learn more, or with the coupon. It's a very different experience. It's much more mature than it used to be for shipping. I know that we had a customer at Ruby not long ago when we were in the office who came back to us and had signed up with us because they had this mailer and we couldn't figure out what mailer it was.
Yeah.
And we went back and somebody was like, oh, it's like from 3 or 4 years ago, but the paper was so nice and it was so
Yeah.
nicely done that multiple customers had hung on to them for years.
Yeah.
That's a long play.
The longest of plays.